First, I'd like to give praise and thanks to our Father in heaven and through his Son, Jesus Christ, for giving me the ability to play sports. I've been talking to Ozzy and Willie all week, and they told me this is such a prestigious event, but it has a tendency to take a little long, and I don't want to contribute to that. So as Henry VIII said to his wives, I'm not going to keep you that long. I am humble and I am honored to be standing in the presence of the greatest fans in the world. How can I put into words my thanks, my love, my appreciation for the St. Louis Cardinal fans? Thank you, love you. You have really given me the greatest honor of ever being here. Looking out today in this incredible sea of red and white brings back the greatest memories in my life. The one thing I miss most was making you cheer. Your fans are intelligent, loyal, passionate. St. Louis is the greatest place to have played baseball for 6 years. You don't know how happy I am to be inducted into the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame. It's a great organization, it's a great city, and once you have worn a Cardinal uniform, you feel like royalty. I never knew what it was like to be loved by a city until I played here in St. Louis. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for voting and making this a very special day for me and my family. I am humbled and I am honored to be inducted into the class of 2018 Hall of Fame with Ray Langford and Harold the Cat Beacon. You guys represent what's so great about the game of baseball. With your competitiveness, there's no surprise to me that you're here today. I'm honored and humbled to go in with you. Thank you. Thank you to the Cardinals front office. Thank you to the Cardinals owners, to the clubhouse, to the ground crew. Have always been the best in baseball history. You know, I was drafted in 1982. In 1982, the Cardinals won the World Series, and Augie Busch was the owner. I was inspired whenever I heard his voice because we knew how much he loved the game of baseball. But that ownership, that torch has been passed to a well-respected, loving family, Bill DeWitt and Bill III. You guys have continued to produce and build winning championship teams with rich traditions as of today. Thank you so much for adopting me back into your family. I feel like that kid that ran away from home that had Mr. Meal cramps, and I've been starving for love and affection. And now that I'm back politicking because I'm my biggest advocate. I would love nothing more to be able to share my craft, my knowledge, and my skill set and be an inspiration to every kid that walked through your locker room door. I know my Cardinal fans would love to see me back here coaching one day, right? And Bill, I look forward to smoking a few cigars with you out on the golf course. Thank you to Joe Pfeiffer and your entire staff. You've always kept me in the loop for the last 15 years. You've always brought me back here to St. Louis for special events, special appearances. I even had a chance to throw out the first pitch of a World Series game. I even had a bobblehead night. You even made me the manager for the last 2 years down at the fantasy camp. And I've managed to win a championship there with my Anheuser-Busch team. Any of my Anheuser-Busch players here today? I've been looking for my bench coach, Mike Claiborne. I wanted to give him his ring, but he's probably at the buffet bar. Special thanks goes out to Dr. Ted Savage, legendary Dr. Ted Savage. You know, in 1985, Ted calls me up to his office, and he has Dr. Savage on the door, and I said, Ted, you got to earn your nickname. You just can't give yourself a title, doctor. But Ted was responsible for my first television commercial, Uncle Leonard's TV. My only line in that commercial was, "You tell him, coach." But Ted and I had a golf tournament out at Quail Creek. The Cardinals was the sponsor, and Mike Murphy was the head pro. The Hall of Fame, wow. To be here on stage as a St. Louis Cardinal Hall of Famer. To have your name mentioned as a Hall of Famer. To have your name mentioned with Lou Brock, Bob Gibson, the late great Stan the Musial, and my condolences goes out to Red Shandies and his family. You know, Red and I had something in common. Red, very first year in the league, he led the league in stolen bases with 26. So one day I went and sat next to Red on the bench. I said, "Red, it took you a whole year to steal 26 bases? I did that in 1 month." So a few years ago, we in town honoring the 85 team at Whitey's golf tournament. Red came up to me and said, "Vince, you played 13 years, you hit a total of 12 home runs. I did that in 2 weeks." Touche. But the Hall of Fame is a symbol of opportunity and commitment. The Hall of Fame is a symbol and opportunity of dedication. The Hall of Fame is a symbol of opportunity and excellence. Baseball has given me recognition throughout the world, and now it has rewarded me with the greatest honor of being inducted into the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame. I am humbled, I am honored, I am grateful to be a St. Louis Cardinal Hall of Famer for life. I guess I've stolen my final base. You know, we've been looking at the highlights and the videos, and you know, those were the glory days. But behind all the glory, there's a story. You know, my mother, I have to give all my thanks and praise to my mother. Single woman, you know, no money. I never owned a bicycle as a kid. I was cut from my 9th grade baseball team. And my mother insisted that I further my education by going to college. So I walked on at Florida A&M University. Thanks to Pop Kittles, he allowed me to play baseball. And by the grace of God, it was a St. Louis Cardinal scout there by the name of Marty Meyer that came by, and he was in town really to see Florida State. But Florida State was rained out that day, so one of his friends told him, "Man, you need to go check out this little cat over there at Florida A&M stealing the bases. I think he's pretty decent." So Marty came up to me after the game. He said, "You know, you look like you play with a chip on your shoulder." I said, well, where I'm from, I kill a mosquito with an axe. So he put my name in the computer, and it was a 10th round draft pick. 10th round draft pick. Back then, it was only good for a first-class ticket to Johnson City, Tennessee. So now here I am at Johnson City, Tennessee. After 3 weeks of being in Johnson City, Tennessee, I hear a voice. I'm getting dressed in my locker. I'm sitting there and I'm getting dressed in my locker. And those who come early, stay late, stay around the longest. Those who come early, stay late, stay around the longest. And the third time I heard this voice, it was in my ear because it was directed at me. Now, all of us that are sitting here on stage are lucky and blessed to have been in the presence of Mr. George Kissel. If it wasn't for George Kissel was very instrumental in my life. George Kissel molded me. If it wasn't for George Kissel, I would not be standing here today. George Kissel came to me, he said, "Young man, if you want to play in the major leagues for Whitey Herzog, you must become a switch hitter." I was 22 years old. He said, "When you wake up in the morning, I want you to brush your teeth. I want you to wash your face. I want you to eat all your food with your left hand. We got to build this left hand up. I want you to comb all your hair." I had hair back then. So he bought me this pipe. It was 34 inches long. And he said, "Before you go to bed tonight, I want you to swing it 100 times. And then when you wake up in the morning, I want you to swing it another 100 times." I said, "All due respect, George, I could do better than that. I could swing it 1,000 times. I swung that bat for 8 months up until spring training in 1983. My first full season, Macon, Georgia, I batted .350 and stole 145 bases. During the offseason, Lee Thomas called me up. He said, we got big plans for you. We're going to skip AA. We're going to go to AAA. I want you to be on the watch for live, Mr. Jim Pagosi. He's going to give you the green light. So I go to AAA the next year, 1984. Still 101 bases, bat .265. Now, in 1985, I started the season back in AAA just for 13 days. And that's when I got the phone call from Mr. Whitey Herzog. It was 13 days, and once I got to Busch Stadium, I took one step, and the first thing I thought that went through my mind is to make my mother proud and not embarrass myself. Now, as a major leaguer, it was no more than a minor leaguer with an opportunity, and am I prepared for this moment? It means preparation. I have been given knowledge through Mr. Don Blasingame, and I was convinced that every pitcher they delivered to the plate had a flaw, tendencies, tips, in their tendency, tempo, or their timing. I was convinced of that because I had proved it in the minor leagues. Now I'm at the big stage. But the knowledge that he had given me, I was going to share it with my teammates because knowledge builds confidence. Confidence makes you play fast, and when you play fast, you kick ass. And that's exactly what we did in 1985. I'm so proud to have been on the best base running team ever been assembled in the history of baseball. We went out and stole 314 bases that year. Thank God for Whitey Herzog. Whitey Herzog allowed us to go out and exhaust our abilities. Whitey didn't have no rules. It was your job to show up on time. It was your job to give 110%. Only thing Whitey ever told me was come to the ballpark every day and get better. What that meant was exhaust your abilities. That built chemistry within our ball club. Now, I can remember being, as we win the championship, we was going to the World Series, and I'm in the locker room and celebrating with Art Holiday, and they was pouring champagne on my head, and he was asking me about the chemistry of the team. I said, I have the best teammates in the world because I play on the best team in the world. Why? Because we got an all-star at every position. We had Jack Clark, Tommy Herr, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, Terry Pendleton, Joaquin Anaha, John Tudor, Danny Cox, Bobby Forsch. And the bullpen was, and whenever Whitey wanted to give Ozzie a day and Tommy a day off, we had the secret weapon, Jose Oquendo. We had Tom Lawless, Kurt Ford, Steve Brunn, Mike Jurgensen, Tito Landrum, and Van Slyke. And whenever the pitching, the bullpen was by committee, we had Sue Campbell, Jeff Lottie, Pat Perry, Tard Woel, my man Ken Daly, and my favorite left-handed teammate of all time is Mr. Ricky Horton. The reason why Ricky was my favorite teammate of all time, Ricky was the first guy to have patience with me to take me golfing. He created a monster. Thank you, Ricky. And I can't recall, you know, that chemistry that Whitey built around our ball club spilled over to the coaching staff. We had Hal Lanier, third base, Nick Laver, Rich Hacker, Red Shane Deans, Mike Roy, and Johnny Lewis, rest in peace. Johnny Lewis taught me everything I knew about switch hitting, how to compete when I got to face Nolan Ryan, Doc Gooden, or Hershiser. If I had 2 strikes on me, that I was going to spread out, choke up, and put it in play and run like hell. And if I wasn't looking for Dave Ricketts, Dave Ricketts was looking for me. So, and I don't recall anyone ever being hurt that year because we had a great medical team. We had Dr. Gino Giesman, Dr. Stan London, and the travel arrangements was always great because C.J. Cherry was the best in baseball. The plane was never late, and the hotels was always ready. And I'm gonna tell you why I won Rookie of the Year that year. So when I got called up, I was only supposed to be here for 4 days. So that meant after 4 days, I made a road trip. Now we got a 10-day road trip. And so CJ said, as a rookie, you're supposed to share a room. But since you're the odd man out, I'll pay for your half of the room as long as you keep stealing bases. So C.J. Cherry motivated me to steal bases every night. So thank you, C.J. Cherry. So right around All-Star break in 1985, I was watching the news one night, and Whitey was complimenting our ball club. And then he made a statement of how Vince Coleman, you know, we're getting a little mileage out of Vince Coleman, but he's a diamond in the rough. Now, I'm a little country boy from Jacksonville. I didn't know what diamond in the rough meant. I come to the ballpark next day thinking I'm going to get a watch from Whitey. But Whitey, you've had such a profound impact on me in my career, teaching me how to play the game, teaching me how to play the game the right way, teaching me how to respect the organization and go about my business and taking care of everybody. Whitey had a way of pumping me up every day. Even when the pitchers started to slide step, he still encouraged me to steal bases. One day, Whitey called me into his office and he said, "Sit down." He said, "Vince, you're the only guy in baseball history to steal 100 bases 3 years in a row. They can't stop you. They can only try to contain you. So when the pitchers are slide stepping, you must pay attention to the count. When they're uncomfortable with the count, they'll go back to their normal delivery, but you still got to give me your same body language as though you are going every pitch, because if you don't, they're going to pitch differently to Jack and Tommy and Oz and Willie." And he said, "You understand?" "Yes, sir." So Whitey had taken me out of the ball game for 3 days, and he baited me to come into his office so he can drop some knowledge and some wisdom. Thank you so much, Whitey, for your guidance and put me back in that lineup. The definition of a friend is Willie McGee. Willie, as a teammate and as a friend, you made me better through conversations. You made me better by watching you play center field every day. After 3 weeks of being in the major leagues, Willie took me under his arms, and he asked me to move into his home. But Willie had rules. So Willie didn't charge me any rent. I had to pay any rent. He gave me my own room. Only thing I had to do was put my own phone line in my room because he didn't want me tying up his line all night long. You know, it was before cell phones and call wait and wasn't none of that back then. So that's all I had to do. We leave to go to the ballpark every day at 1 o'clock, go have lunch, and then we'll go to the ballpark. Curfew was 12:30. So one night, I came home at 12:45. I told Willie I was at the batting cage working on my stroke. He didn't go for that. The next day at lunch, Willie challenged my character. Willie is the first person ever to show me unconditional love. Willie cared more about me as a person than he did a baseball player. Willie, we are brothers, just from another mother. I love you, man. Ozzy Osbourne Earl. To the world, you're known as the greatest shortstop of all time. But to me, you meant much more. See, Ozzy, I was raised without a father. You bought me my first car. Isn't that what fathers do? We were locker mates for 6 years. And you probably wonder why we still remain locker mates even when we went on road trips. Because Buddy Bates, Frank Koppenberger, or Rip, they knew what to do. See, Ozzy, I wanted to be there every day. You inspired me as you take ground balls off your knees every day in practice. I wanted to be there every day, Ozzy, when you had your pregame and your postgame interviews. So when the greatest announcer the world ever seen, Mr. Jack Buck, came by and asked you one day, Ozzie, you said, how do you explain at your age, how do you handle playing every day? And you said, there's no off days for excellence. And I go write that down. Then one day, Ozzie, Hall of Famer Mike Shannon come up and ask you, Ozzie, what drives you to play this great game? And you said, I live by the 3D, desire, determination, and dedication. And this was my favorite. My friend, Mike Claiborne, come up and ask you, Ozzie, year after year you continue to win Golden Gloves. How do you contribute your success to? And you said, Ozzie, the most important word that's associated with the game of baseball is consistency. One must minimize his negatives and maximize his positives. And see, Ozzie, those are life lessons that I share with my family and my kids every day. And I'm so proud to say I learned them from you. I love you, man. We got a lot of catching up to do. I'm happy to be back home. My wife, Denise, she's a special woman, and I'm privileged to be her husband. I can honestly say I married my best friend. As a retired baseball player, I often struggle with retirement because I didn't have that Cardinal uniform on of my last day on the field. But Denise has come into my life, and she's been very passionate with me and as a given mother. She often put other needs in front of her own. You brought so much joy and fun into my life. You are my rose garden. You water me each day with faith, prayer, and love. Your roots are embedded inside of me, and your soul is so beautiful. I love you. To my kids, Capilani and Koa, thank you for demonstrating the character and the mannerism that every parent would love to see in their kids. To the eyes of the world, you are two people. But in the eyes of two people, you are the world. I love you. To my sports agent, Jimmy Turner, and may Bobby Bree and Richard Bree rest in peace. To all the sports agents, which was Jimmy Turner and Richard Bree, but to all the sports writers, TV analysts, radio announcers, Charlie Tuna, I love you, man. But my two favorite sports writers is Rob Raines and Rick Humble. Every story you ever written about me was like a perfect picture. I could never do any wrong. You was always honest, and you was always fair. Thank you. To all my friends and teammates at Florida A&M University, and through all my travels that I've met throughout the world, and to all my friends here in St. Louis. Tom, thank you, Marcus Allen. We all connected in faith, joy, and love. To all you kids, I want you to listen to your parents and respect your elders. St. Louis, there are three things in my life that would never change. My social security number, my birth date, and being a St. Louis Cardinal fan. Yeah.